He was cheating on me with men. I'm a 40-year-old woman, and I've been married to my husband, who's 44 for 20 years now. We have two kids, a 16-year-old girl and a 13-year-old boy. My husband is what I would consider a high earner by middle-class standards 10 years ago. By complete coincidence, I found out that my husband had been cheating on me with men and that he had been doing it since before we got married. We live in a small town in the south of the United States, so him coming out as gay would have consequences. I believe that this is the only reason that he hasn't come out to anyone. First, here's how I found out that he was cheating on me. He got sloppy and left a credit card bill in the pocket of a coat. While going through it, I found all the telltale signs of infidelity. Payments to a hotel in a nearby county, restaurant bills, gifts, flowers, condoms, and lubricant. I started camping outside the hotel on days that he told me he'd be late, and I saw him bringing different men there. I'm very good at compartmentalization, and I have a great poker face. It comes with growing up in an abusive household. So I was able to give myself the time to cool off and to come up with a plan of what I should do. The first thing I did was get an STD panel, since I didn't know how safe he had been with his partners. The test came out negative. Then I convinced him that we should start using condoms, since I was having side effects from the pill. He was okay with that. I thought for a long time, and I came to the decision that I was not going to confront him, nor was I going to leave him. He was able to provide me with a really good lifestyle, one that I would never be able to afford with my high school diploma. We had a cleaning lady, a nanny to help with the kids, regular spa days in a country club, a new car every other year, luxury family vacations every year, etc. He was a good dad and a good partner, cheating aside, and really good in bed. But I wasn't going to let him have a single guilt-free week in his life. That would be my revenge. I started small, planning great date nights for us, telling him that I felt our relationship had cooled off and I wanted that spark back. Then I would sometimes slip into conversations some hot tea I heard about a cheating husband, a gay man that had been using his poor wife as a beard, and I would compliment the only gay couple we knew for having the courage of being real men who were out and proud of themselves. On the other hand, I would praise him as the perfect husband to anyone and everyone, especially if he was in earshot. The amount of guilt gifts I got from him was astounding. This man was even sending me flowers weekly. It continued that same way for years. I could literally see how much this weighed on him. My parents were part of a commune with a concept of free love. I was the same. I just considered myself to be in an open marriage. It seems that cheating is easier to ignore if you're not that big into monogamy in the first place. And my husband was keeping me satisfied, so I felt no need to find a partner of my own. Then, 4 years ago, I guess he met the love of his life. He started seeing just the one guy. I was seriously thinking about ending the whole thing, especially since I'd started my own business by then, and I was able to bring in enough money to support myself and my kids while maintaining my lifestyle. But then my husband introduced his side piece to us. He effing brought him into our house, introduced him to our kids, and that was enough for me to keep tormenting him. Apparently, he was a new friend that he made while golfing. He started hinting about moving to another state, a state where it would be easier for him to come out. I refused, telling him that my business was here, and I wasn't going to start over in another state. Also, the kids had their friends and extended family here, so it would be unfair to uproot them. Then, he started trying to start arguments. I guess he wanted us to fight, then for me to ask for a divorce. I just stopped those arguments in their tracks. I would just agree with whatever he said. He was right, I was wrong. And to make it up to him, how about a nice dinner and some great passionate hugging? He hated that. I knew from spying on his phone that passionately hugging me felt like cheating on his boyfriend. The audacity of this man. I also knew that his boyfriend was pressuring him to leave me almost every day. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He started drinking, and when it got too heavy, that was when I decided that enough was enough. I wanted to ruin his life, not his health. Also, I grew up with an alcoholic father, and I didn't want that for my kids. So I gathered all the evidence of his infidelity over the last 9 years. Photos with different men, conversations, his Grindr profile, everything. Then I hired a divorce attorney and mailed the evidence to his employer. He has a morality clause in his contract, and adultery breaks it. I also mailed it to all of his relatives, including his parents, as well as our church. Our next story is a model son to a junkie, baby murdering racist overnight. I always knew that I was gay and that everyone else was homophobic, so I was planning on staying in the closet until I moved out. You know the story. 7 years ago, a certain senator from Vermont announced his candidacy for president of the United States. And me being the edgy high school senior who couldn't keep his mouth shut, I went all in on the online activism. Mostly on Reddit, but importantly also on Twitter, where I had a fan account with 10,000 followers that I wouldn't shut up about. My activism for Bernie Sanders did not go over well with everyone, but people knew my politics, and I was just a terminally online 17-year-old high schooler, so no one took it seriously. I guess my parents got a few comments at church, but that was about it. Even at school, I lacked self-awareness and wouldn't shut up about the Democratic primaries. I wasn't antisocial or anything, but most of the people I hung out with were dorkier than me, and at least as unself-aware. Here's one thing that I didn't account for. If you harass your entire rural hick town to follow your Twitter account, maybe don't also use that account to like gay adult content. There were likes on that account from half a year prior, so you had to scroll a while to find them. But this one guy from one of my classes, Alex, went through the trouble and sent screenshots to practically everyone at school, plus my parents. This wasn't easy for me, but the landing was softer than I expected. My parents took a week or two to adjust, but were eventually fine with it. Other adults in town avoided me, but that wasn't much of a change. And people at school picked on me for a while, but it dwindled down pretty fast. Still, I was livid with what Alex did, and I wasn't letting it slide. Besides, it wasn't entirely harmless either. My parents accepted me, but they were still outwardly homophobic. And even then, who wants to have their adult content browsing history shown to their parents? Alex was a top-of-the-class straight-A student with Ivy League aspirations and definitely Ivy League qualifications. Plus, he could go the legacy route through his dad. His future was also fully dependent on his parents' money. I needed to hit these two aspects of Alex's life to turn them into smoke. Alex's parents were kind of the movie cliché of small-town rich folk. Old money, his dad is a lawyer, good standing with the community and the church, conservative, involved in local and state politics, etc. Alex was a spoiled rich kid. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with that, but it comes with its fair share of rebellious dumb things that you do as a spoiled rich kid. So here's how I used Alex's past to destroy his future. Alex dealt drugs for 1 month when he was 15. Again, he was a well-put-together valedictorian, so this is totally out of place for him, but I guess he just wanted to do something edgy. I know this because one time, me and my friend bought some weed from him. My friend had screenshots of the conversation and was more than happy to give me those screenshots, which I sent to Alex's parents. Obviously, they accused me of fabricating them out of revenge, so I asked my friend to show them the conversation firsthand next Sunday's sermon, which he did. A year before outing me, he impregnated a girl who ended up getting an abortion that he paid for, with a quid pro quo that she wouldn't say who the father is. It was already too late for her, since her parents knew that she was pregnant, so she didn't mind taking the fall herself. I knew that girl pretty well. We weren't friends, but we were close politically and would have the occasional discussion. She was livid with Alex for outing me and decided, after I not so subtly suggested it, to do a call-out post on the town's Facebook group with screenshots of their conversations. Also, Alex had an alt-right trolling account that he used to harass black people. I'm talking hard are N-words, monkey jokes, IQ graphs, and the like. Multiple people, mostly the one black kid who went to the school, reported him, but it was practically impossible to prove that he was behind the account until I realized that he sometimes logged into the school computers and gave that as a tip to the principal. I'm not sure what the IT guy did, but he caught Alex red-handed. Alex ended up getting weeks of school suspension and had to apologize in front of the whole school. So Alex went from a model son to a junkie, baby-murdering racist overnight. His parents decided to kick him out without a penny after graduation. He did still get into an Ivy League school, but without his parents' support, he had to juggle school and a part-time job and dropped out a year in. He's now apparently a divorced, absentee father who's involved with 2 multi-level marketing schemes at once. He went from a valedictorian, who was destined to become AD. Our next story is have fun talking to my supervisor. I've been in India for the last 2 weeks on a course with my university. Just a day before I flew out, I must have eaten something dodgy because I got the infamous Delhi belly diarrhea. As someone who likes to think ahead, I decided to book aisle seats for all my flights, knowing I'd probably be taking multiple trips to the bathroom. The compliance begins on a 4-hour connecting flight. As I made my way to my seat, I realized an older woman had taken it for herself. I pointed at the number above, but instead of moving to her middle seat, she got up and motioned for me to sit in it. At this point, I thought about telling her what the deal was with my colonic calamity, but decided to just let my actions speak for me. As soon as the seatbelt sign went off after takeoff, I got up to take the first of many dumps. She had actually fallen asleep at this point, so I had to wake her up so she could get up. Grumpily. 20 minutes later, I had to go again. A total of 4 trips later, and we're still 1.5 hours from landing. She's getting irate. Finally, after my 5th and final defecation, she offers to swap seats. Cherry on the top, I didn't even get up again until we landed. Prior to being a bartender, I worked at a retail chain called Big W. I'm a nerd. I tend to switch to autopilot when tired, almost always at the end of shifts, and can be a dick when annoyed. Me in a nutshell. It's a slow Wednesday afternoon. The AC is broken again, and it's about 5 degrees Celsius hotter inside than it is outside. 29 degrees Celsius. I'm in autopilot, rigor mortis smile on my face, and retail greetings are droning out of my throat. A guy walks into my register, demanding a refund for something trivial. Probably his panties were the wrong color. I don't remember. I inform him in a monotone voice that refunds are issued by my supervisor, not me. There's a surprisingly substantial line at the supervisor's desk. People wanting cigarettes, refunds, or information. He informs me that he's not waiting that long for something trivial. He demands I do it because even someone as dumb as you can do this. Well, that snapped me out of autopilot and the smile fades. I repeat, in a much more direct tone, that only the supervisor can do refunds. The customer is having none of it. Refund my item. He demands again, saying it very slowly, as if I was the dumbest potato in the strawberry patch. I am unable to. He cuts me off. I want to speak to your manager. I don't want to talk to you. Now, this is where people need to be careful with their words. As a cashier, I report directly to my supervisor, one of the two at the desk. They're in charge of me. My manager sits out back managing the store and usually never has to interact with customers unless a supervisor calls him. So I nod, calling through the headset from my manager. Let's call him Fred. Fred's a great guy. He tells good jokes, he's always ready to help his friend, and he's a caring soul. He's also a mute, and after wrapping his truck around a tree as a teen, he's also deaf. As such, he knows Auslan, which is Australian Sign Language, but can't read lips to save his life. I also can't speak Auslan at all. This probably took about 5 minutes for someone to alert Fred that he was needed and for him to come down. All this time, I'm smiling but not saying a word to the gentleman as he told me to. He comes up to the registers, sees it's me waving him down, and pulls out his PDA to communicate with me. What's up, Fred types. I take the PDA and type. Customer has a complaint, wants to speak to my manager, not me. Fred raises an eyebrow at me, and I just shrug. The guy is turning red with anger, probably thinking we're ignoring him. Fred turns to the guy who launches into a full-on verbal assault that would curdle milk chocolate. Something about incompetent employees and terrible service. Fred just stands there. Eventually, the guy runs out of breath and Fred has a chance to show him the PDA with the words, "Sir, I'm a deaf mute. Please use this to communicate with me." The guy practically screams and storms out of the store. Plot twist. Fred can talk and hear just fine, but since he works in retail, he's been faking it for years so that he doesn't have to listen to angry customers.